Reykjavik, affectionately known as the shopping street here in Reykjavik, Iceland, is one of the most popular places, not just amongst the native Icelanders, but also amongst the tourists who come here in every season, not just the summer, but also the other seasons, equally so in the winter. Today happens to be an extremely beautiful day, hot, 16 to 17 degrees in Celsius. Yes, that's hot for us. But sun, that's something you're not going to find very, very often. Back in the old days, a few centuries ago, this was known as the wash road, where the women would meet every weekend to do their washing in the hot springs at the end of this avenue. They would meet to discuss their children, to discuss their husbands, as I imagine, as women often will do, and to just talk about their daily routine in their homes and living in Reykjavik. Today, Reykjavik has full of fantastic shops and cafes and restaurants, and even on the weekends you can go for a glass of wine in the bars. Most of the shops here have Scandinavian designs, and you will find a lovely array of these designs with designers at fair prices. Kiosk is one of those particular stores with many Icelandic designers, and we stepped in the other day to hear a little bit more about it. Here we're standing on the very top of Reykjavik this time, not on the end of Reykjavik. Here with me is a designer from Kiosk, and what we're going to ask her is the name Kiosk. Where does that come from? What does it mean? And how many designers are you? What are you about? What kind of trends, what kind of fashions are you offering the Icelandic and the international women?
Yeah, basically Kiosk is owned by 8 different Icelandic designers. We started 6 years ago. We're getting these awards from Grapevine every year for the best shop to buy Icelandic fashion. We're very proud of that. We all have our separate lines, but I would say that our aesthetics fits well together, but we are totally different at the same time. We do a lot of prints, a lot of natural fibers, and a little bit of experimenting, because owning your own shop, you are capable of doing that, testing out new pieces and see how it goes, hear from the clients and so on. So we all stand behind the counter once a week.
And since I have you right in front of me, your name is?
Eygló.
Eygló. And just for the fun of it, what's your very, very favorite material to work with, and what's your favorite style that you're offering with the fashion for the women?
I don't have any specific favorite fabric because I like to change a lot and do different methods. I'm doing knitwear for the first time,
and
for
style?
example, and laser cut. I would say it's bold and classic at the same time. Fun.
Like what you have on.
Yes.
Knit, bold, classic. There you have it, on the top of Reykjavik Kiosk. Moving right along. Absolutely, if you find yourself here in Reykjavik, you must have a look-see around the town to see what kind of the different shops will be available to you. Walking down on the side roads is really enjoyable. Today, it seems that we have a bit of Reykjavik, the shopping street, is closed. Sometimes it is like that. We have these little partitions, as you can see there, the bicycle. I think they're awfully, awfully cute, and you'll find very often that the foreigners will take pictures of themselves on top of those bicycles, as if it's the newest novelty that happens to be around that they've ever seen. Personally, I think it's kind of funny, but if you happen to take a picture, just make sure you don't break them and certainly don't fall off of them. There are a lot of designs here in Reykjavik, and you'll find everything from the touristy woolen designs on the shopping street, Reykjavik, and you also find, I think, just everything from souvenirs all the way up to the woolens, all the way over to sporting goods, as we see here in Arctic Adventure. Sporting goods that are fantastic for going out on the glacier, by the way, and out into the tundra and the interior. But you'll find also really high fashion things. It's sometimes really, really difficult in some of the boutiques to find the fancier names as it is in other cities, Paris or Milan or New York City, Manhattan or London even. But you definitely can find them. As we're going, looking around this area, you have a really, really good view of everything, a good positioning of everything. Definitely, as I said before, in between perhaps taking a tour of Iceland out in the nature, definitely it's worth checking on the downtown area, or rather we just would call it then just the city center. There is something for everyone. Perhaps you want to check into a cafe to have a nice hot chocolate or a good strong cup of coffee and just talk a bit with your friends. Or perhaps you just want to look at the architecture, of which the majority, as you can see, has a really strong Scandinavian flair to it. Majority of the architecture, I believe, has the strongest flair dating back to the Danes, as Iceland was under Danish rule for many a year. There are not that many chains here, as we know, for example, like American chains. You saw a Subway there. There are not that many of those particular kinds of chains, but you will find that if you're looking for something that might make you feel that you're more in a Western, larger country, as for example, in Great Britain or America or Germany, you will find those kind of establishments, and that might make you feel a bit at home. For those of you coming from the Orient or from China and that area, you might have a little bit difficult time finding, although we do have a couple of noodle places. As you can see, the houses are colorful and full of a variety of different establishments that should pique your interest. It is not possible to get lost in the city center and through Reykjavik. It truly just is not possible. Here we've been showing you some really good side avenues, some good spots here and there. The majority of the restaurants and the cafes, though, however, are on Reykjavik, the shopping street, and this particular street comes adjacent. This is Skólavörðuvegur. I thought that was one of the most difficult words for me to remember when I was little growing up here. That it's a bit of a mouthful, but if you just remember that it's the street coming down from the largest church, which is Hallgrímskirkja. If you remember that it's the street coming down from there, you just can't get lost. And this, to me, is one of the most charming streets coming off of Reykjavik. It's smaller. Here you see, which is kind of a crazy thing, but we have the oldest prison there in the Reykjavik city center, right there, and that stone establishment there on the right side. And it was a prison until just recently, and today it is not. It'll be interesting to see what is the change on that. Everywhere you go in the city center and on Reykjavik, on the shopping street, everywhere you go, you will find there are people pretty much everywhere. Majority of them are tourists coming from all over the world, just enjoying the nature usually from Iceland. I think that's the main thrill and the main attraction. But they find, I think, that it's really, really cozy to come here on the shopping street on Reykjavik because it's comfortable, and the different array of the stores and the boutiques and the cafes, it really will make you feel right at home. Be prepared, though. Like I said, the weather is always changing, and there's a little bit of a joke But if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes and then you'll have a change. We have a nice, lovely older woman with her raincoat and her hat on. God bless her, she's still riding her bike, so that's kind of cool. But even if you come here with just basic apparel, I think you'll be fairly well taken care of, even if the weather changes abruptly. Just don't find yourself in the interior in the middle of the glacier, and even in the summertime, because yes, it can turn into a blizzard, and then I suppose the rescue team will have to then find you and rescue you. You see, it's not just the women who are meeting and having coffee and gossiping about the latest news. We have a few men there. So it's not just the women. This particular house there right in front of us, it's a fantastic house. It is a woman place, but it has a fantastic mural just recently painted by a 17-year-old. It's just been painted, I believe, about 2 years ago. It is one of the typical touristy woolen establishments, but outside of the house is really, really, really lovely. You know, it's fantastic coming through Reykjavik. And if you have a chance, definitely you want to spend time in the city center. Walking from the top of Reykjavik down to the very bottom of Reykjavik does not take a very, very long time. You can stroll through it in about 20 minutes, perhaps even less. I've had my moments of taking it in record time, and I can walk it really, really, really quickly in about 5 minutes. But then it's a little bit of a different thing when you're living here rather than you're I think these particular guys here having a beer, I think that they're definitely foreigners enjoying their moment. You see the front of that house, you see exactly what I'm talking about now. Spectacular talent by a young woman designer and artist. It's charming, though, in the summertime when they do close the majority of the through traffic on Reykjavik. It's charming. You can just walk anywhere you want. You don't have to worry so much about the traffic. And going into all these shops, the majority of the people, they speak English. If you don't speak tremendous amount of English, I think you can still get by, even with a little bit of French or even with a bit of English. Coffee houses are definitely something that Icelanders love, and I highly suggest this particular one is Coffee Tower in Bankastræti, which is the end of the road coming down the hill. It's one of my favorite. Very cozy, quaint, quite nice. See how you like it. Now, we talked earlier about the designers here and the boutiques. Spaksmansbjörn, which happens to be directly across from this coffee house, is a lovely place. Let's check out and see what they have to say. We talked earlier about the shopping street on Reykjavik, and here we are standing with Björk and her daughter Margaret. They are here representing this extremely beautiful store. As you can see, the boutique has ladies' clothes that are absolutely lovely. You're not going to find here in Iceland so much of the Prada or Chanel or Christian Lacroix, but you're going to find absolutely spectacular Icelandic designs. Björk has been here since 1993. Yes. Her daughter, who has just come into the company, representing also her designs. She is one of the coolest and talented designers here in Iceland, and we're here to talk to her and ask her then, what is it about the Icelandic designs and fashion for the Icelandic women that has changed? What is the hottest thing today in Iceland?
I think it's not only one thing that is the hottest thing. You know, it's here in Iceland the people are really want clothes that they can use for different occasions. They want to blend different styles together, and in this label we need to do like everything, because we are not so many here in Iceland, so we do clothes for work and for party, and you know. So the thing is to blend it, do the clothes that way that people can style it so it's their own. Mm-hmm. It's more like that. So I'm do the line and always think about multifunction opportunity for the customer.
We see that the women here are very beautifully dressed and you have really beautiful fabrics. What do you feel is the most exciting fabric, exciting material that you have working for the Icelandic nature, the Icelandic weather, and the Icelandic woman?
The weather in Iceland is changing like every other country. So, and the Icelandic ladies are traveling a lot. So I have to consider all kinds of weather, not only the Icelandic weather. And I am really fond of the Icelandic lambskin when I make the Rúlambs jacket and things like that. And now I'm working also in camel wool. I love that as well because that's really soft and really nice material and no animal hurts and nothing really nice work about it. And I'm also working in leather. I'm also working in polyester. I really like the concept to use the extra product of the what do you call it?
Like the mineral oil consumption in the world.
I don't want to use that in one
like packaging that you throw away, but we use it in clothes so that we can reuse.
Yeah.
So it's very environmentally friendly.
Yeah, that's the one aspect. And also you can of course have organic material as well, but you have a big space of land and you use so much water, so it's difficult to find totally the right. We are trying everything because of course we want to be sustainable and we want the customer to feel good in the clothes and they are part of. Yeah,
it's beautiful. So there you have it. Camel hair in Iceland, helping the woman to look spectacular. Thank you, Björk and Margaret.
So you see, there is something for everyone, and that particular boutique is one of my very favorites. As we're moving right along down through this city center, we just passed now the Parliament House, which was there on the left side, an extremely old building, absolutely beautiful. You see right there, I love the architecture. It's Danish, it's old, and it has a lot of flair of just the past, history and color and lots of personality and character. Anywhere you go through the Reykjavik area, you're going to find not as much traffic as you're used to perhaps in the other cities that you go to in the rest of the world, in Europe and America and so forth and so on. But you still have to be careful. If you're a bit of a jaywalker, you still have to be careful. People do drive, though usually a bit slower through the city center. This is one of the oldest areas in Reykjavik, and it's just lovely. This is Ingólfstorg, which is the square of Ingólfur here on the right side. And this was one of my favorite places when I was a little girl. There was a Dairy Queen right there, an ice cream store with very smooth vanilla ice cream. And you will see when you come here that Icelanders love ice cream. I don't know why. Yes, it's cold. To add ice cream on top of it doesn't make any sense, but there you have it. Coffee houses everywhere, and when the weather is hot like it is, yes, I use the word hot because 16, 17 degrees is really, really quite warm. So when it's hot like it is today, they're going to take the tables and the chairs outside so you can sit outside and enjoy the weather. On any given day in the summer when you have it really hot, when it goes to the high of perhaps, a record high of perhaps 22 or 23 or even 24 in Reykjavik, which doesn't happen often, but it can happen, then I think it's pretty much an undeclared holiday because just about everybody is outside, the native Icelanders and the tourists alike. But the Icelanders definitely absolutely loving the warm weather. Here we are approaching a really, really quaint and old area at the very base of the city center. It's where the harbor is. And of course, if you know your history of Iceland, you know it's an island and you know that the fisheries and fishing is the most important and the main industry, and it always has been this way. The harbor is, in my opinion, split into two particular zones. You have the smaller area that we're just about to approach, easy to walk around. Small boats are harbored there in general. And then you have the larger area with the large trawlers, fishing vessels that are commercially owned. And of course, you may walk and stroll through that area and enjoy it also. But when we come down to this area, you'll find something really, really interesting. Whaling in Iceland is controversial. We both know that. It's controversial. But the funny thing that we're about to approach is you will find whale watching being offered you on the right side, and you'll find the whaling industry alive and well with their trawlers there on the left side. This is an older area of the harbor that we're seeing, and both on the right side and the left side have all been changed into small shops and restaurants and typical fish and chip establishments like you would be used to perhaps in England, Scotland, in that area. We talked about the smaller harbor, and it kind of amazes me, and it's a really fun juxtaposition of interest. On any given day, you can come walk through here. You can absolutely order a trip out on the ocean in the whale watching. Keep in mind, though, the whales, they're only predominantly in 2 times in the year. We all know that the whales migrate north to south, and we all know they migrate for the action of the fishing in the particular areas and for mating. And I don't know. You can make up your mind whether you agree with the whale watchers in keeping the whales safe and happy and swimming around, taking your pictures, or as you can see on the left, if you agree on the whaling industry. That is something you can figure out for yourself. But I highly, highly suggest the whale watching tours. They're both fun, they give you all the equipment that you need, so you will not be cold, you will not get wet, and if you don't swim, well, I'm sure they give you a life vest. But on any given season, you can go out on the whale watching ships and take some really lovely pictures. And if you're fortunate, and I understand, I've only been one time, and yes, I saw one whale, but I understand that they have really, really good luck on seeing the whales en masse. And that is always interesting, regardless of where you stand on the issue of the whales in the world. As you can see, there are lots of tourists coming out here. And this is a lovely, lovely area directly ahead of us. That mountain range is called Mount Asia. And in the old days, you could really predict the weather. If Asia was filled with snow and stormy clouds above, you could absolutely bank on that Reykjavik would be also snowy and cold and gray within 2 to 3 days. Today, it's the same thing. And I wonder if the whalers there, Hvalur 8 and Hvalur 9, which means whaler 8 and whaler 9, affectionately named, these two large whaling ships, I wonder if they ever look at Asia to see what the weather's going to be like when they go out to capture their whales. I don't know. I doubt you would be able to go on top of these ships, but I imagine someone aboard would answer a question or two, and you probably would be able to take some good pictures of these ships. A mark in history that definitely has shaped mankind and the environment. But like I said, it's a beautiful day today, and it's better just to keep those thoughts to yourself for the moment. As you can see, the small boats there on the left side. It's only been the last maybe, I would say, 20 years that you see a lot of the sailboats that you see often abroad. Sailboats and the small little, what would I say? The small familiar boats, the boats that you can just go out and do a little bit of fishing with your family and your friends. It's only the last, perhaps, no, I'm saying this from a layman's point of view, but the last maybe 20 years that you really see them in the bay on a beautiful day like this, or hugging around the cove on the other side of Reykjavik. Fishing has normally been an industry and not so much for entertainment and for just relaxation. But luckily, that is changing today. Now, this building right there, it's called Slipper, and it's now a bar and a small hotel. Right there, this building, right there on the right side that we just passed, that was owned by my grandfather. And yes, today they are still painting and fixing the large ships that come in to be repaired. I have a feeling he wouldn't have minded, even though he's long gone, he wouldn't have minded people meeting together and having a glass of wine or a beer and laughing and talking about their escapades through the city center, as perhaps you might do in the future. I don't know. But ahead of us, and not far from that lovely grandfather that I mentioned, is Landakotkirkir. It's an absolutely beautiful cathedral, Catholic in nature, and directly behind it, my grandfather's house that he built and completed in 1935, a long time ago. It's a beautiful, beautiful cathedral. It's really, really lovely. It's not as large as many of the cathedrals that you see, especially in Europe, and it's certainly not as magnificent as Notre Dame, whether it's in Paris or Notre Dame in Luxembourg, but it is really, really quaint and lovely. And if you feel the need to speak with God within a house, then definitely I think they would like for you to visit. This particular area is quite affluent. It's lovely. It's nice to walk through. You'll see the many different embassies in this area. We don't really have an area like you might see through Washington, D.C., an Embassy Row. You won't really see that here, but you'll see in this particular spot of about a span of about 2 to 3 blocks, you'll see quite a few of the embassies. And if there's something political going on in the world that's rather controversial, then you can bet that the French are perhaps going to be disagreeing with the Russians, and the Russians are perhaps going to be disagreeing with the Americans, and the Americans are perhaps going to be disagreeing with, I don't know, perhaps the Italians, who knows? But you will always see the embassies there in their full political glory. But going on to a little bit happier thoughts. You see that large tree right there on the left side? Beautiful, beautiful round tree. My grandmother, she actually was an incredible woman. She boycotted again and again and again with her female friends to save that tree from being chopped down. And many, many, many decades later, that tree is still standing thanks to my grandmother and her girlfriends. Now, the lake here on the right side is not, in my opinion, such a large lake. But we here in Reykjavik like to believe that it's a large lake. We like to believe that it's quite impressive, but it truly is not so impressive in size, but it really, really is beautiful. The buildings you'll see right through this particular area and up through Reykjavik, the shopping street, are old, hundreds of years old, and really charming, as all of them are. Churches everywhere. Here we have a non-denominational church, I believe, the Free Church here on the left side. Museums everywhere. It is just not possible to come to Reykjavik and not find something that suits your taste and your liking. Whether it be art, whether it be literature, whether it be just simply history, whether you're a little bit of a hippie and you just want to hang out and check out the nature and come on into town and relax and, I don't know, have a beer or have a nice cup of coffee. There's something for everyone. There's a small little part of this particular lake where there's a lot of the breeding being done that we try to support the little bits of nature that are here in the city. Directly there to the left and by that fountain right there is a nice breeding little area that's secluded for the ducks and the swans and the different fowl of the region. So they do have a little bit of peace, which is nice. I have always believed that the area that we're about to come to is the Rodeo Drive. This is just my opinion, but is the Rodeo Drive in a very quaint and lovely and romantic way in Reykjavik. Yes, it's an affluent area. It's well kept, it's beautiful, it's interesting, and to me, each of the houses, though there are not many, each of the houses has a history, it has a story, something that sets it apart from the other houses. It's beautiful. It's cozy. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter if you come here when it's dark in the winter and it's snowing, or if you come here as we have it now, a beautiful, hot summer, 16, 17 degree day in the sun. As I said, it's not very long. It'll take you just 5 minutes to walk down it, but it's just beautiful. It's really, really lovely. Now, if you come driving here, you can park virtually everywhere, but be warned, make sure you put a ticket on your car with a parking meter, because you don't want to be coming here and then end up with a 3, 4, 5, 6,000 kroner fine that will follow you all the way home, I promise. So you'll see there the P sign. That's the parking meter sign for your lovely car. And it's not horribly expensive, but then again, well, Reykjavik is not cheap either, even as far as parking meters are concerned. The Ráðhús above us is one of those things that drives me crazy. But architecturally, it's an interesting monstrosity of cement and glass. It is where the mayor is and the other political offices of that particular genre. A lot of controversy surrounded the building of that particular establishment. And it's there, it's built, it's done. Me, I don't love it, but who knows? Maybe you come from New York, in the city, and to you, it's probably tiny. And to you, you probably love it. But to each his own, as they say. There's that beautiful tree that my grandmother fought so much for. Absolutely gorgeous. If you're a tree lover like me, you might go and give it a pat. Who knows? Easy to find. There are not that many large trees in Iceland, and we can thank our ancestors, the hardy and handsome and strong, crazy Vikings of the past. Apparently, of course, we don't know this, do we? Because we don't know it by first choice, but apparently, thousands of years ago, the Vikings chopped everything down for their ships and for their housing and for their fuel, etc., etc. And we are left with what we are left with today. And that means virtually no forests. But immediately here on the right side is a tiny, sort of, a little forest. The difference is it's the oldest cemetery in Reykjavik. A lot of my relatives are buried. I don't know. To me, it's the most charming place in Reykjavik. I have gone many times, and I seriously encourage you to someday stroll through this cemetery. It's a lovely, quiet, quaint, beautiful way to spend a quiet moment. The tombstones are old. Some of them you can't read so much even more when the person was living and when the person died. But that's not the point. They've been there for hundreds of years. And some of them, you can really read how old they are. And you can only imagine what they went through when they were young and how they lived their lives, what they did for a living, who they married, who they loved, who they didn't love. What was the gossip? What was the newest thing going on in Reykjavik? Was it just survival? Was it dealing with the elements? Were they yearning to move away to another land? Who knows? But they're here. They lived here, they died here. I have a cousin who lived in this avenue. She lived here for a few years, directly across from the cemetery. She always found it a little bit morbid. Perhaps I'm a bit macabre in my own view, but I love it. It's peaceful. You can hear the birds chirping on any given day, even in the winter. and it's a great place to go with a cup of coffee or even a picnic. I imagine that the deceased wouldn't really mind having company of the living above them, enjoying their moment. Maybe they'll keep you company. Who knows? I don't know. But this area is very fond of my heart, as we are one stone's throw away the next street. We are directly behind that lovely cathedral I talked about earlier. But this is where I had my childhood visiting my grandparents. On the corner of every other street here was the butcher, the baker, the fishmonger, you name it. The tiny, tiny little boutiques. And my very favorite was the dairy. I don't know the word quite for it, but the place where the dairy was, where you could go for cream and you could go for milk. I don't know if there's a word for it. I don't know. But skyr is something that you might have tasted. Now, I've seen the television commercials and they call it skyer. You may call it skyer if you prefer. It's kind of not a very nice way of saying it, but skyr is the way it is said, and it is a similar feeling and taste and texture to Greek yogurt. It's absolutely delicious. Now, if you're a sugar kind of girl like me, and how I grew up, we put cream on it and brown sugar. And in my case, a bit of a sweet tooth, loving the sugar, I put a lot of brown sugar. But skyr was wonderful, and the woman who served it up on a brown piece of paper, slabbing it out of a what would be the word? A barrel with a trowel, slabbing it down like it was a piece of a mortar, and wrapping it up in the paper with my heavy, heavy skyr going back to my grandparents on any given Saturday or Sunday. It's one of my most fond memories. She was a big, big, big woman, rosy cheeked, blonde, curly hair, something you'd see out of a Norman Rockwell sort of painting. A big, healthy woman, hearty and cheerful, always smiling and laughing. Those are my memories when I was little. Today, things have changed a bit, and we have a lot more, I think, as we were just talking about women, a lot more of women's rights here. Immediately you see right there this young woman repairing or even putting together her own fence. That is a common thing here in Reykjavik and in Iceland that we are tremendously proud of, our women's rights. Women are tremendously capable here, both physically, of course, psychologically, politically, and have an incredible voice in society, making issues for humankind, women and men and children alike here in Reykjavik. And that is something to be proud of. I believe, if I'm correct on this, and I believe that I am, that I believe that Iceland is the foremost country in women's rights, at least in Scandinavia, something that is quite wonderful. You remember when I was talking about Mount Esja. Now you see, even today, as I view this beautiful mountain range, of which, keep in mind, you can walk up Mount Esja. It is not so difficult. It'll take you about an hour if you walk it slowly. It's not a difficult hike. It's not even really a hike. It's not so steep. But it is a nice, pleasant walk if you want to be a bit out of the nature and not too far away from the city center. But I believe today it is still such, and me myself, I live in the city center, and me myself, I still use Mount Esja as a ruler, pretty much for my meteorological viewpoint. So if I'm going to look out the window one day and I want to know how it's going to be in the next couple of days, I know that Mount Esja is going to tell me if it's going to rain, if it's going to snow, if it's going to be calm or windy. I just know it because it never fails. It's the same as it was thousands of years ago. Now you see ahead of us, not that it makes any bit of difference, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up, those of you that are deciding to travel here, that, my friend, is a gas station. I'm a coffee girl. I swear I'm addicted. But I'm not too sad about it because I keep reading all the time, backwards and forwards on the internet and in books and hearing it on the news, that apparently my 4 to 5 to 6 cups of coffee, apparently that's good for my heart, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But here's the heads up. If you go to a gas station in, say, America, believe me, you're going to get brown water. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Honestly, coffee in the gas stations in Iceland, they're really, really, really good. It's really good coffee. So don't worry. If you're traveling around and you're really craving a lovely cup of coffee, it's okay. Stop at the local gas station and you'll get a fairly good cup of strong coffee. Remember I talked about ice cream? Right here on the left side of the area that is of the harbor. Remember we talked about the smaller boat harbor and the large ship commercial harbor. Right here on the left side is an extremely popular ice cream store with many, many flavors. Me, I'm more for sherbet, but if you like the creamy stuff, well, that's the place for you. It'll take you about 20 minutes walk from the city center if you're taking a leisurely stroll. We always go back to our roots, don't we? And this particular area is a lovely part of the harbor. You'll find medium and small and sometimes larger trawlers and fishing boats here, older and newer. Right there in the gray with a beautiful Icelandic flag is the Coast Guard. So be wary if you plan on doing anything nefarious out in the seas. The Coast Guard has their eyes on you. But this particular establishment here on the right side is called Kaffivagnin. It's an old diner. And inside, it's as if it never changed from decades ago. And on the very outside of it is a nice terrace, been brought up all the way to the 21st century, and it's lovely, especially on a day like this. So I highly suggest if you want to have a basic, hearty, good meal, a good hot meal in the daytime, then you want to go maybe to Kaffivagnin. If you want to sit outside, perhaps have a nice cup of coffee. And believe me, Icelanders, we love our coffee. Then definitely check it out on the outside. If you are one who really, really enjoys fishing, the fisheries, the history of fishing, or you just want to walk with your loved one or your main squeeze further away and you just want to walk away where it's peaceful and really take in the industry, take in what's really going on in the main part of Iceland, which is fish, then this particular area is a place for you. It is not glamorous, not beautiful, and let me tell you, on a wintry, dark day when it's icy and windy and snow, it is still nice, but it's not particularly cozy and fun and wonderful. But there is a certain energy around any fishing dock that is productive and that is moving and that is happening, where the fishermen are coming or going, whether they're with their catch or without their catch. It's not the point. When you walk through this particular area, you're going to find a lot of business. You're going to find the trucks are going backwards and forwards in between. As we see, the smaller forklift and tractors are going to be moving around at any given moment. Perhaps they're going to be packaging up, putting the fish on ice, as we've seen, as it often is in the harbor area, ready to have that all packaged and shipped away. Or perhaps not. Perhaps you meet a sailor or two, or even a captain coming off of his trawler. It's a possibility. But be wary that in this area, they're here for business. So don't get in the way. Enjoy your stroll. Enjoy the moment. Absolutely. Take some pictures if you like. Converse with the people who are working on the ships. But be wary, because there could be a lot of action going on around you, and you might find yourself a little bit in the way, as has happened with me a couple of times. But growing up here, visiting with my grandfather, who was a magnate in fishing, and who had a whole fleet of trawlers, I was fortunate. I knew many of the sailors here when I was strolling through, and a couple of the captains, and they're good salt-of-the-earth people. No pun intended, but you get it. Good salt-of-the-earth people. It's a lovely, peaceful way to spend a moment, especially perhaps if you come from the countryside. Perhaps you come from a big city. Perhaps you come from Boston. Perhaps you come from New York City, from LA, from way down south, Barcelona, or Rome, Tokyo even. It's a calm, relaxed, industrious area with the smell of fish in the air and salt, seagulls permeating. It's unavoidable and still charming. Like I said, it's a working area, so you'll be able to see sometimes the workings and machinations of this industry. It's amazing, especially when you come from a different area in the world. It will be an experience for you. It's not gloriously glamorous, is it? It's not spectacularly beautiful. It's not. But that's not really how it is when you come, for example, to Iceland. You want to take in then the raw beauty. But is it not also about taking in the rawness and the realness of the people, of the industry, of everything that makes Reykjavik great? Akureyri, another small city, perhaps you call it a town, but it's another small city in our eyes. Akureyri is also another large fishing port to the very north of Iceland. So definitely, I suggest you go check out Akureyri if you have a chance. It's not a very far drive if you plan on renting a car, perhaps approximately 5 hours, and perhaps you want to stop on the way. There's a very small little diner that you can go and have a burger and fries and a Coke. Quite American, isn't it, huh? But in the middle of driving, you can stop and have a burger. Or perhaps all that lovely coffee that I keep talking about. I do so love coffee. And Iceland, really, it doesn't matter how far north you are, you're going to find really, really good, yes, imported, but African, South American, you name it. Iceland has great coffee. The most charming part, I think, about the harbor, aside from the trawlers, aside from the fishing vessels, is exactly this right here you see on the right side specifically. These are smaller garage areas, storage areas that for decades and decades and decades have the fishermen, and still some of the fishermen have, for their equipment and for their nets, etc., etc. But the newest flair kind of gives me a feeling of Soho. The newest flair, you know what I'm talking about, is when they change these industrial areas into cozy, quaint, cool, commercial little areas. Something that the private businessman can enjoy, something that he can offer you. Like here, we have art, we have, again, cafes, we have boutiques, of course, Icelandic ice cream. Who doesn't love that? And really and truly, if you think it's weird to come to a cold country and have ice cream, I suggest you rethink it and give it a shot, because it's really, really quite good. Unless, of course, you're allergic, and then, it's a moot point, isn't it? But further along here, you will find smaller businesses and even a museum or two. And that's interesting. Like I said, there's always something for everyone. But you know, we all have our own taste on architecture and design. But it doesn't seem to really matter about architecture and design, does it, at all, when we have the beauty of the nature right near the city. Just perhaps 20, 30 minutes walk, as I had mentioned before, is an area called Grotta. It has a tiny, tiny bird sanctuary there, and it's really, really beautiful. We have to pass through a small town called Seltjarnarnes, and by the way, an extremely athletic and sporty small town. A lot of sports and swimming pools and athletic centers here for you. So if you're looking for an extra fitness, you can go do something in Seltjarnarnes at the gym there or the swimming pool. Something for everybody, isn't there? But further down here, we find an absolutely beautiful bird sanctuary surrounded by a tiny, tiny little beach and a lighthouse at the very end. Now, if you're looking for cozy and romantic and dark in the evening with the lighthouse, you can't really count on that in the summertime, as remember, it's light all during the day and the night. But in the wintertime, it's absolutely beautiful, very romantic and cozy. But you might still enjoy your romantic stroll with your loved one through this area if you love a little bit of nature. And this particular tiny stamp of nature here off the beaten path in Reykjavik is a lovely, lovely area. It's an area that has quite a bit of the fowl of the region, and specifically the kría. The kría is a tiny, tiny little hardy bird. It's one of my very favorite, and it is the longest migrating bird in the world, traveling twice a year all the way from the northern climes of Iceland to the very southern coast of Australia. How about that? Kind of amazing, huh? But they have their young here for 6 to 7 weeks of the year. And they're very, very diligent, going backwards and forwards, and catching the small minnow, which are affectionately called síli. Síli is the same as it is everywhere else in the world. They're in the shallows, they're very small, and the kría, the mother and the father, they fly back and forth all day long during these 6-7 weeks to feed their young. Beware of one thing, though. They are very, very temperamental and will remind you as a fishwife arguing with her husband. They are calling and crawling from above, making shrill and loud noises, but they are quick and medium and slight in their size, and they flitter and flutter all the way around, and they own the area in this end of Grotta. The beach is on the far side, very, very small, and yet quaint and cozy. The lighthouse, beautiful, and of course, serves her purpose. But whether you come here to this part of Reykjavik to just take in the city center, to just go and do a little bit of shopping, to check out the latest cafes and restaurants and bars, or whether you want to see what the latest fashion is, all the way to the latest in the fishing industry, this particular area of Iceland, the small town of Reykjavik, is for you. It's quaint and cozy and a little bit of something for everyone. And when you feel the need to get away and feel the wind on your cheek, hear the water lapping up on the rocks below you, or you just want to stroll, rent a bike around, or just enjoy the view, this is the place for you. It is easy to get around, to have fun, to talk to your fellow man, or to be completely at peace with God's work. Nature is beautiful everywhere in Iceland. Keep in mind, she can be brutal and she has a temper, so be dressed well and be careful. But like I said, we have a great rescue team and we'll come and rescue you if you get yourself in trouble. But here in the Endagrotta on this beautiful, really, really warm, sunny day in the middle of summer, nothing can go wrong. With the birds ahead, with your loved one beside you perhaps, enjoying the day. Yes, nothing can go wrong because, well, you're in Reykjavik, and Reykjavik is the place for you. Beautiful, huh?